Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. So it is official, I've completed my 12 months in my internship, which seems crazy because it does not feel like 12 months at all. But since I'm actually done and I've had the whole 12-month experience, I thought I would come on here and share with you how it went, what was the pros, what was the cons, and just generally like what it's like being an intern and kind of my tips for how to make the most of your internship. I know a lot of you watch for my university or college kind of videos, so hopefully this is really helpful for some of you. And I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there to start with, as always, but obviously this is just coming from my experience as an intern. I'm sure every internship is different, but I do think a lot of the things I have to say about internships can be transferred across like a lot of different industries and their internships that go with that, so hopefully it is relevant to you guys. I also feel like, although this is going to be an informative video, it's also going to be a bit chatty because I'm talking about my experiences. So I've come up with this little timestamp thing. So if any of these points look like that's what you need and you don't need to hear about any of the other bits, feel free to skip ahead to those. Hopefully it will still make sense, but I would recommend obviously watching the whole thing just so you can get a bit of context as well. So to start off, I wanted to give you a bit of background as to what exactly my internship involved. For those of you who don't know, I go to the University of Greenwich and I study events management, and I was lucky enough to get an internship in events. So I worked for a year, still working there now as an employee, exciting, but we worked for a year with Cam and Hooper as an intern. Cam and Hooper own 5, almost 6 venues, and we plan and create events within those 6 venues. So the clients come to us, we contract the event, we then plan it, and then we run it on the day. So it's not like I am the client, I am working from the venue side of things, which is what I wanted. So for the 12 months I was purely an event planner, and now working for 2 more months until I go back to university as an employee, I am a sales manager. So the event planner part was basically after the event has contracted, so the clients come in and see the space, said to the sales manager, yeah, I want my event here. The planner then plans it, obviously. So I sorted out their requirements for any catering, tables, chairs, AV, production, invoicing, chasing payments, all of that was down to me. So my internship on a daily basis was a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of planning calls, a lot of site visits, and then our regular like internal team meetings. So it was a pretty full-on internship. I was very involved from an early stage. The company's relatively small. It's been around for like 5 or 6 years. I probably got that wrong. Should have probably known that. But it's relatively small, which was great because it meant I got a lot of responsibility early on. I actually got given my first event in my 3rd week. And considering I had never really planned an event before, that was quite a lot of responsibility. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of my internship. I hope that made sense. I'm sure looking at it from the outside it seems a bit confusing, but it was really fun. So let's get into what it's like being an intern. I've split this into pros and cons just so it's easier to manage. And I've also got little notes on my phone as per, because there was a lot that I wanted to say, so this was just the only way I could think of to make sure I say it all. We're going to start with the pros because I like to be positive, and I did really enjoy my internship, so I feel like this is a good place to start. So my first pro is that being an intern is kind of this perfect in-between stage of being a student and being an adult. It's kind of like riding a bike with stabilizers, in the sense that you have the responsibility, but you also have the stability of knowing that you're learning, your employer knows that this is all a learning curve for you. So you do have a little bit of wiggle room, in the sense like if you make a mistake, your employer knows that this is probably the first time you've done it, and you know, there's not as much pressure on you to be like perfect from the get-go. I especially feel that in smaller internships, like they tend to give you more responsibility and kind of have a better awareness of like what you can and can't do, because you can work more closely with your peers. Hope that made sense. It's also a really fun way to meet new people and start to build your network. It's always great to meet new people in your industry, and obviously it's always who you know and not what you know. And I think it's something crazy, like 85% of event jobs don't get advertised, they get given out through recommendations. So I know that I've got a long list of people that I can go to next year when I'm looking for a postgraduate job and just ask if they know anyone who knows someone, and I'm sure that will help me out in the long run. And yeah, it's just great to like broaden your circle a bit, and hopefully you get to work with some really fun people. And then obviously, I mean, this is very obvious, but it looks great on your CV. Not only will I walk into a job having hopefully a first degree, but also having a whole year's worth or year plus of experience with an established company. I've also been keeping track of the worth, like the value of the events that I've been doing, just so I can say like I've planned this much for this company, I've brought in this much money for this company, and it's just kind of some solid figures to go in there with. So yeah, that's like another great opportunity for you. I also found it really useful to learn how to actually cope with a 9-to-5 job. I don't know about you, but I had never done a 9-to-5 job. The only time I mean, I've never done 9-to-5. Even at school, it was like 9 till 3 or something. And uni, it just got less and less and less. And my job was always in the evening, so I'd never done 9-to-5. And not gonna lie, at the start, I was absolutely knackered. But now I know that I can do it. So hopefully next year, when I have 8 hours a week of lecture, I know that I have the self-motivation and like the discipline to go in every day to the library 9 to 5 if I want to. Like, I can do it. It is physically possible. And I think it was just like a really good kind of training period for knowing that in a year's time I'll be doing that for a very long time. I also found that your internship can be quite flexible. So whereas when you go in for a job, that is your job role, and there's not usually much like leeway with like branching off into different areas unless you've been like working there for a while. Whereas a placement, you kind of want to tailor it to you. So I found that it was really easy to kind of say like, oh, would you mind if I shadow marketing today? Or, oh, I'd really like to get involved with sales or anything like that. And I feel like your employer is a bit more open to it because you are interning. It's a learning experience. How many times am I going to say that? But it was a really great way to kind of see what felt right and what didn't quite feel right, what you're interested in, what maybe you thought it would be really good but maybe isn't for you. And yeah, it was just a really great way to kind of feel around your industry a bit and kind of figure out what you exactly want to do moving forward. And I think my most controversial pro will be that I get to go back to uni for another year. Now, originally this was a con, like a big con for me. I was like, no thank you, do not want to go back to uni. But now, having done it for like over a year, I am so ready to go back to uni. I want to have a social life, I want to meet up with my friends. Obviously, uni's obviously really hard as well, and I will be doing essays and exams and stuff. But it's also like, because I only have 8 hours of lectures a week, it's a bit of a break in the sense like I'm not going to be doing 9 to 5 every day, and I'm not going to have that much responsibility on me. Like, the only responsibility I have is myself. So I think it will be a bit of a break before like my career, like the rest of my life or whatever it is, which sounds so scary. So yeah, the fact that I get to go back to uni is really nice. And I think also working knowing like this is your end goal is really great, because I don't feel like I'm stuck in a job that has no end and I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel or whatever. Because not only did I really enjoy my internship, but I know that I am going to go back to uni and kind of develop myself further. So that's really great. So moving on to the cons, my first con is that it does add another year onto your uni. It obviously depends when you do your placement, but I did a year in industry, so I took my 3rd year out, did my placement, internship, whatever you want to call it, and then I'm going back to uni, which I think we've all gathered by now. But it did make my 3-year course into a 4-year course, and originally I was so against it because I am in a long-term relationship. I'm in a long-term relationship with my boyfriend Christian, and originally we were doing long distance, so the thought of adding another year onto that of doing long distance like made me feel sick. And I was like, no, I just want to get it done. I want to get into the working world. I want to get money so I can like move where I don't want to move and all of this stuff. But then he moved in with me, so, and I also felt like obviously the value from an internship is a lot greater than not doing one. So yeah, that is a con. It does add another year onto your uni. Like, some of my mates didn't get a placement, so have now graduated, which is really sad because I won't be in their year. But in the long run, I feel like everyone's different ages in uni anyway, and I will still keep in touch with those people as I have throughout this year. So I don't feel like it's the worst con in the world, but it's just something to consider. Another con that I found was that it was quite intimidating being given such big responsibilities so early on. Get your words out. Because I was handling like large sums of money, and I'd never done it before, so that was quite intimidating. I mean, it was great, throw me in the deep end, like I learned so quickly, but being a student and kind of being faced with that, just to like, they expect you to just know it, was a bit like, whoa. And I think from that we kind of like took a step back and was like, okay, let's like we'll work up towards that rather than the other way around. And I feel like if that does happen to you, just be vocal about it. Maybe just get people to check over your work before you send anything, or just say it to like your mentor or whatever, like that you're not really comfortable with what you're doing. But yeah, it was quite intimidating, and I mean it's always intimidating starting a new job, like trying something that you've never tried before, meeting new people and all the rest of it, especially in an environment, if you haven't been in a working environment before, that is like a lot. So yeah, it was a bit of a con because it's just like there's a lot of emotion to be feeling, but you're gonna have to do it at some point, so the sooner the better, I think. On the flip side, I do feel like if you're not given a lot of responsibility, it could be quite boring and seem like a big waste of time. So I know for like larger companies or corporations or whatever you want to call them, their interns tend to like run tea and make photocopies and all of that. Mine luckily wasn't like that, but I can imagine that that can be quite frustrating because you feel like you are just wasting time, like you could be at uni, finishing, graduating and getting a job that you actually want. I was very lucky in the sense that I had the responsibility with my smaller company, but obviously there were times where I was quiet or they didn't have as much work for me to do and things like that, and that did feel like a very long period of my life, in the sense like it just drags and you just feel like you could be doing so much more productive things. But again, I think you just have to look at it, like look at the big picture and think like what you're getting out of it, and the highs that you have had within that internship have been worth it. So I would definitely recommend going for a smaller company or asking for more responsibility, or just making it known that you can do more than what they're giving you. Yeah, otherwise it could be seen as like a bit of a waste of time. I would say this is the same if you were in an internship that wasn't directly related to what you want to do. So obviously I do events management at uni, and I was an event planner and a event sales manager, so that's very relevant to my degree. Whereas if I was doing an advertising like marketing degree and I was doing an event role, it's kind of linked, like there is some layover, but majority has nothing to do with that degree or that particular interest. And I think vice versa, like if you're doing a marketing degree and you get a and you get a marketing internship, but actually you're more interested in events, you might find that marketing internship to be like a complete waste of time and not what you're interested in. So I think it is really, I guess it's luck really, like whether you get an internship that's really specific to what you want to do, like your ideal internship, something kind of similar, or something just way off. If it's way off, I might not be sure if it's worth it, because although you do have a year of experience, which is always great, your end job that you want might not find that experience very valuable if it's not to do with that role. Does that make sense? My last con, which I felt very strongly for like the last 3 months, is that it can put you off going back to uni. I think it was a bit of an ego thing, in the sense like I felt like I knew how to do my job. I didn't need to learn about what people said about it, like theories and all this stuff, because I know I can do it. This piece of hair is really annoying me. So it did put me off going back to uni, because it was like, why do I need to put myself through all that stress and work and everything if I know I can do the job? Like I could just stay in this role if I really wanted to. So yeah, I mean, you have to have the right mindset going into it. I've definitely got that mindset now, in the sense like I can't wait to go back to uni. But for a long time I was like, I don't know if I'm going back. I don't know if I can do it. I think what kept me thinking that I was going to go back was just like the financial commitment I had made to going to uni, because it's expensive. But yeah, I mean, it's always something to consider. So if you're struggling with staying in uni now, maybe don't take a year out. But again, if you feel like you're going to take a year out and you're going to get what you want to do and it's going to be great and you're going to have a really fun time and potentially stay there, maybe uni's just not right for you and you do work better in the working world. Who knows? As for my tips, I have quite a few of these. I feel like I've got a lot out of my internship, so I think these are some of the reasons why, and hopefully they will be useful to you. But my first tip is ask a lot of questions. Whether that's about the thing you're actually doing to make sure you're doing it right, whether that's about the industry as a whole, whether it's about the specific company you're working for, whether it's about the other person's experience at uni, just ask a lot of questions. Like, as I've said time and time again, this whole year, or however long you're doing your internship for, is a learning experience, and you only learn really by asking questions. I have learned so much about my industry, like what to do, what not to do, where to go, where not to go, and all of these things, which I just wouldn't have known if I hadn't have been a bit curious and a bit inquisitive. So yeah, I would definitely ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask stupid questions. Someone told me that at the very start of my internship. I think it was like my first week or my second week. They said, don't ask any stupid questions. And I was like, okay. And then I then told one of my other colleagues that this person had said that to me, and they were like, are you joking? Like, ask as many questions as you can. Which was like a huge relief, because I was then petrified that I was going to ask a question which I didn't think was stupid but was actually stupid. So yeah, there's no such thing as a stupid question, as people always say, so just ask away, and it's a really great opportunity to learn. I would also say, if you don't already have one, ask for a mentor within your company. I kind of got one by default. Like, each department has a team leader, and I worked very closely with my team leader, because when I was hired, there wasn't really like an event planning department. There were 2 event planners for 2 specific sales managers. So I worked very closely with one of those event planners, who then became a team leader for the event planning team, because we grew to like 6 people. So we worked very closely with one another, and she was great, like best mentor I could have asked for. And it wasn't only like if I had any trouble with work, it was like if I had any trouble with other colleagues, if I had any trouble at home, if I needed a day off because of something like personal, she was like my go-to person. And it was just great to know that you have that person like in your corner. So it meant like if anyone higher up was giving me crap for something that wasn't my fault, she would be there for me and kind of back me, which was great, because obviously as an internship going into something you've never experienced before, you can feel like quite isolated and quite lonely, especially if the company you work for isn't like really welcoming at first, which mine wasn't particularly. So knowing that you've just got that like one ally is great. So yeah, I would definitely ask for a mentor if you don't have one already. It was like not life-changing, but internship changing. So definitely get one. Like, even now that I'm not on her team, I'm not a planner anymore, I'm a sales manager, I still feel like I can go to her with anything, which is a really great feeling to have. This kind of ties into one of my pros, but oh, Christian's coming home. If there is a particular department you want to get into, or a change you want to make to your internship, make it known. So don't just sit there and think, wow, I really wish I could do marketing, wow, I really wish I could do marketing. Like, just say to either your mentor or whoever you're reporting to, like, oh, would you mind if I tried out marketing for a week, maybe in like a month's time or something? Because they might say yes, and if you never ask, you won't know. And I need to let Christian in because he's knocking at the door. Oh, is it dark? Who knows? Oh yeah, make it known. Just if you want to try out something new, just let someone know. Like, don't suffer in silence. Especially if like you're hating the role you're in now, it would be much better for you to try out something that you might actually be interested in. I would also say try and treat it like a real job. I know you're on an internship, but have the mindset that this is a real job. You need to prove yourself. You need to do the best you can do and kind of put in your all. Just because if you show that from early on, they know that you mean business, and you potentially could get a postgraduate job, and you might be a bit more likely to if you do treat it as a real job rather than like muck around because it's only an internship. I feel like I kind of did this from a very, very early stage, kind of made it known that I was here to like prove myself. And I feel like it paid off. I mean, obviously I've got this kind of 2-month actual job before I go back to uni, and I reckon the offer will be there if I did want to go back after uni. So yeah, it's just a really great thing to have in your belt, knowing like if you did really love the place that you were working to, you could go back, and you won't have to stress about doing interviews whilst in your final year of uni. Another tip I have is that if you want to extend your placement, plant the seed early on. So I knew I wanted to extend my placement because originally I had done June to June, and then thinking I could have a really long summer and go back to uni in September. Between that June to June, Christian moved to London, so I wasn't then going to go back to Bournemouth for like 3 or 4 months and leave him here working 9-to-5 job because he's in like the real world. So I know I wanted to, or knew I wanted to extend my placement. So I think I mentioned it in like February. We were just talking about my job as a whole, and I was saying I was really enjoying it, and that it was crazy that it was coming up so soon, like I would be leaving at the end of May. And it would seem silly because I had university in September, so it's quite a long time, and they were like, oh, well, would you consider extending it? And I was like, yeah, I would. So yeah, plant that seed early on. Don't wait for an invite. obviously you don't have to say like, I want to extend my placement, but if you just say like, oh, I'm really enjoying myself, it's so sad that I'll have to leave so soon, like shame I can't extend it or something, you might just like plant that little seed, and then they can kind of like figure it out for a little while, think about what they want to do, and then maybe offer it to you. So yeah, I would just say plant it early on, don't leave it to the last minute, because that could be quite stressful. I know if I had finished at the end of May and had to find a job for three months, that would have been like a nightmare. My last tip is probably not probably the most crucial, but one of the most crucial. Get involved in I nearly said after school, after work activities and like social events. I swear they are a godsend. As I mentioned earlier, starting at my company wasn't the most welcoming environment. I feel like people had their cliques and their departments, and that was kind of it, and I was very much the intern. I think giving me responsibility so early on made everyone see like, oh, okay, she actually knows what she's doing, she can do the job too, like maybe she's not just an intern, especially now that I'm actually an employee and I've been there over a year. Makes a difference. But the kind of walls started coming down when I went to, I think it was like the World Cup screening or something with them, and we were all just having a laugh, having a few drinks, and they kind of saw me as a person rather than just like a student or someone who's like 6 years younger than them or something. So yeah, definitely get involved in social activities. It just shows like a bit of a funner side to you. It helps you get to know people on a more personal level, and you can like make some really good friends. Like out of office settings are great. So I got involved, like we did mini golf, we go for drinks sometimes on a Friday, or did the Christmas party. Like if you have a sport, I know Christian's job do loads of stuff, like they do football. He did a work triathlon the other day, they do softball together. So anything like that, just get involved. It just shows like you are really part of the company and part of that team spirit, as well as just getting to know people in a different way. So yeah, that was my experience of being an intern. I have really enjoyed it. I am very thankful that I'm going back to uni, and I would definitely recommend an internship to anyone, even if you have finished uni and you just like can't particularly find a graduate role at the moment or whatever. Get yourself an internship. Just like being busy and getting that experience is just great, and it will just like make you bulletproof for your next interview, hopefully. So yeah, and they are some of my tips. I hope you liked them. If you did, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe down below. I post videos every Sunday, so hopefully I'll see you very soon. I think my next one is going to be a weekend in my life, because I'm going home for the weekend, and I'm reuniting with some old friends, which I'm so thankful for. So hopefully you can stick around to watch that, and I'll see you very soon.